Hey guys, how's it going? If you're a fan of challenging games, intense combat, and dark atmospheres, you've probably delved deep into the works of FromSoftware. In this list, you'll discover 10 incredible Souls-like games that aren't from FromSoftware but deserve your full attention. I'm Matthew, and we're starting the list with Black Myth Wukong, one of the most ambitious modern Souls-likes. Based on Chinese mythology and the legendary story of Journey to the West, the game immediately impresses with spectacular graphics, fluid animations, and a world that feels alive and vibrant. The protagonist, the Monkey King, offers a unique combat approach with transformations, magic, and agile strikes that provide a different feel from the traditional heavy armor and shield of classic Souls games. The combat is clearly inspired by FromSoftware games, but with its own identity. The movement is more fluid, with an emphasis on magic and acrobatic attacks, and the bosses, as in any good Souls-like, are imposing and challenging. The variety of skills and transformations creates a unique rhythm for battles, blending strategy and aggression. The setting is another highlight. Eastern mythology is incredibly rich, and the game does an amazing job of bringing this culture to life immersively. Abandoned villages, floating palaces, supernatural creatures. Everything carries a sense of mystery and reverence reminiscent of From's work, but with a completely new flavor. The first Berserker Khazan is a Souls-like action RPG developed by NiOh, released on March 27, 2025 for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. The combat system is the highlight, with emphasis on precise defenses, dodges, and breaking enemy stamina using 3 types of weapons: axe, sword, greatsword, and spear, with customizable skill trees. The progression is accessible, with coins like lacrima and orbs for upgrades and the possibility of redistributing skill points at no cost, in addition to mechanics that reduce punishments, such as gaining experience even when failing against bosses. Although the linear structure and repetitiveness of missions are criticized for limiting exploration, the game compensates with fluid combat and memorable bosses, available in normal and easy modes, both challenging. Despite not being from FromSoftware, the game is praised as a high-quality Souls-like, with positive reviews, 80 out of 100 on Metacritic, highlighting its responsive combat and robust systems. The absence of an interconnected world and a less engaging narrative are weak points, but the satisfying gameplay and innovations, such as adjustments to soften frustrations, make the game an interesting addition to the genre.
was part of his plan.
Scalpel! No, not you two. Everyone I loved is dead, and my name stained in treason. All because of you. Stop the chaos, mortal. If we set this world ablaze with your anger, what would come of it?
Salt and Sanctuary proves that 2D aesthetics don't limit the depth of a Souls-like. Developed by the small studio Ska Studios, the game masterfully translates the pillars of the genre: high difficulty, progression through trial and error, limited checkpoints, and brutal bosses. But all this in a dark, hand-drawn visual style that evokes the grotesque and melancholic. The combat is extremely technical and varied, with dozens of weapons, classes, and spells. It's possible to create characters specialized in brute strength, mages, or hybrids, and the progression system is quite deep with a skill tree inspired by Final Fantasy X. The gameplay demands precision, with well-timed dodges, parries, and constant reading of enemies. The level design is intelligent and labyrinthine, full of interconnected paths, hidden secrets, and shortcuts that are only noticed after much exploration. The sense of reward when opening a new route or defeating a difficult boss is exactly what fans of the genre expect. Even being 2D, the game conveys a heavy, intense atmosphere, similar to that of Demon's Souls. For those who don't mind ultra-realistic graphics and seek a difficult, rewarding, and deep experience, Salt and Sanctuary is a must-play. Blasphemous 2 continues the grotesque, bloody, and religious saga of the penitent in an even more refined version than the first game. With an aesthetic that mixes Baroque art, Catholic iconography, and body horrors, the game is a visual delight for those who enjoy disturbing universes. It is, without a doubt, one of the most unique worlds ever created in a Souls-like. The gameplay follows the Metroidvania model with a Souls soul. The combat is fluid and brutal, with 3 different weapons, each with its own mechanics, combos, and unique abilities. The variety of enemies is great, and the bosses are insane both visually and mechanically. The game requires pattern reading, patience, and mastery of the tools. In addition to combat, exploration is incredibly rich. There are several paths, hidden upgrades, and NPCs that don't give everything away easily, like in From games. The lore is dense and fragmented, revealed in fragments, item descriptions, and subtle interactions, which invites the player to delve into the dark universe of CV Stodia. If the first was already excellent, Blasphemous 2 elevates everything to a new level. The mix of religious art, sharp difficulty, and cryptic narrative creates an intense experience, ideal for those who like to be tested in all aspects. especially the psychological ones.
Higher will, incorporeal and inscrutable fathers, I am revenge.
Death's Gambit started as a promising project, but it was in its Afterlife version that the game truly reached its potential. With several improvements, new areas, and a remade progression system, it became a 2D gem of the Souls-like genre. Its focus on a narrative of afterlife and mourning gives a rare emotional depth to the genre. The combat is more measured and requires attention to weapon weight, stamina, and positioning. There is a good variety of playstyles and unique bosses that challenge both the player's reflexes and patience. The introduction of mechanics such as Second Life, temporary buffs, and talent systems expands the strategy. The art is beautiful and melancholic, with scenarios ranging from silent deserts to cosmic fortresses. The enemies have a disturbing design, and the battles against bosses are accompanied by epic songs that enhance the dramatic tone of the journey. There is a lot of influence from Castlevania, but the Souls spirit is always present. Afterlife made Death's Gambit an essential title, not only for the difficult combats, but for its reflection on death, sacrifice, and redemption. It's a game for those who want more than just tough fights. It's a soul experience, in the best Souls style.
You light doesn't deserve to fade just yet.
Another usurper coaxed by immortality. Kneel before your true king. Beg for mercy. I sentence you to die.
Grime is strange, abstract, and fascinating. It immerses the player in a world where everything is made of living stone, flesh, dust, and sculpture. It is a game difficult to classify, part Metroidvania, part Souls-like, part philosophical nightmare. But what it does with excellence. The combat is different. There is no shield, but a system of absorbing attacks. If you absorb the blow at the right time, you fill your power bar and can destroy enemies with special attacks. This encourages aggressive, intense, but rewarding gameplay. The movement is fluid, and the weapons have weight and impact. The setting is absurdly creative, with surreal scenarios and grotesque bosses. The lore is strange, abstract, and open to interpretation, but full of layers for those who like to investigate. The areas are interconnected with mastery, and there is freedom to explore, get lost, and discover new mechanics over time. Grime is one of those games that doesn't please at first sight, but when you dive into it, it's hard to let go. It challenges not only your ability, but also your perception and curiosity. One of the most unique Souls-likes of recent years. Sands of Aura is an isometric Souls-like with a visual style reminiscent of Diablo, but with the soul of Dark Souls. It stands out for its unique setting, a world covered in sand where the player navigates between islands using a sliding boat. This proposal brings a sense of adventure and desolation that few games in the genre explore. The combat is slow and methodical, requiring attention to attack rhythm, stamina usage, and precise movement. There are several weapons, spells, and fighting styles, with a progression system that allows you to shape the character to the player's taste. Despite the top-down view, the tension in battles and the punishment for mistakes directly refer to what is expected of a Souls-like. The desert and decadent setting is beautiful. Ruins, sunken temples, forgotten fortresses. Everything carries a historical and symbolic weight. The music and sound effects reinforce this atmosphere of solitude and resistance. There are also dialogues with NPCs, narrative choices, and decisions that impact the world. Sands of Aura is a pleasant surprise, especially for those looking for something out of the ordinary. It shows that the Souls style can work in different perspectives and with new mechanics, without losing the essence of challenge, discovery, and immersion.
And the shadow of their mistakes. Many before us have fallen. But if our souls remain solid, and if we look beyond ourselves, we could overcome the darkness.
NiOh 2 is one of the few games capable of rivaling the depth and challenge of FromSoftware titles. Set in feudal Japan, the game mixes real history with yokai folklore, offering a dense and mythological setting. It is a direct evolution of the first NiOh, expanding everything that was already good and refining what needed improvement. The combat is the highlight. Fast, technical, and absurdly deep. There are 3 attack stances, dozens of different weapons, specific skills, spells, and invocations. It is a game that demands real mechanical mastery and rewards players who like to train builds and techniques diligently. The bosses are challenging and varied, with complex patterns and spectacular visuals. Unlike many Souls-likes, NiOh 2 is more direct in structure, with missions separated on a map instead of an interconnected world. This facilitates the pace of the game and allows you to focus on combat and evolution. The narrative is also more explicit, with cutscenes, dubbing, and historical events mixed with fantasy. It is without a doubt one of the best Souls-likes outside of From. The amount of content, depth of combat, and quality of the setting place NiOh 2 as essential for any fan of the genre. A ninja masterpiece in every way. Code Vein is known as the anime Souls, but don't be fooled by the artistic style. Behind the stylized aesthetic, there is a robust, challenging, and full of possibilities combat system. The game takes place in a post-apocalyptic world dominated by mutant vampires in a vibe that mixes Dark Souls with Tokyo Ghoul. The main difference is the blood code system, which allows the player to change classes at any time, completely adapting the playstyle. This encourages experimentation, something not always so easy in From games. There is also an AI partner that accompanies the player, offering support which makes the experience a little more accessible. The bosses are stylized, challenging, and have distinct phases during the fight. The level design is more linear than in classic Souls games, but there are still alternative routes and secrets to discover. The soundtrack is emotional, and the story is told more directly, with a focus on character development. For those who like anime and want a gateway to the Souls-like genre, Code Vein is an excellent choice. Even for veterans, it offers enough complexity and challenge, with a unique visual identity and a world rich in tragedies and redemption. Remnant 2 is the perfect evolution of the first game, a Souls-like with firearms and cooperative multiplayer. This unique combination sets it apart from all others in the genre. With procedurally generated scenarios and several classes to choose from, it relies heavily on replayability and variety. The combat is dynamic and tactical. You need to think about distance, weapon type, reloading, and active skills. At the same time, the game requires perfect dodges, knowledge of boss patterns, and resource management. Classic elements of the Souls genre. The difficulty is high, especially playing alone. The worlds explored are bizarre and creative. Corrupted forests, alien kingdoms, futuristic ruins. There is a Lovecraftian charm in everything, reinforced by the soundtrack and atmosphere of constant danger. The archetype system allows you to create very different builds, such as summoners, tanks, or stealth snipers. Remnant 2 is ideal for those who want a Souls-like with a modern feel, multiplayer, and variety of scenarios. It maintains the tension, difficulty, and sense of discovery, but offers a fresher approach, with firearms and co-op, that pleases both fans and newcomers. AI Limit is an action RPG with Souls-like elements developed by Sense Games, a Chinese indie studio, and published by C-Asia. Released on March 27, 2025 for PS5 and PC, the game takes place in a post-apocalyptic setting called Havenswell, the last city in a world devastated by an alien substance called mud. The player controls Arisa, an immortal blader who explores ruins, fights enemies called Necros, and seeks to restore hope to civilization. With an anime aesthetic reminiscent of Code Vein and inspirations from Nier Automata, the game combines fluid combat, exploration of interconnected levels, and a more accessible narrative than many Souls-likes, but without abandoning the essence of challenge and mystery of the genre. The absence of a stamina bar and the introduction of the innovative sync rate system, which increases damage based on successful combos and dodges, distinguish the game, offering a fresh approach to Souls-like combat. As a Souls-like, AI Limit shines by capturing the essence of the genre without being just a copy of FromSoftware titles. It presents familiar mechanics, such as checkpoints, called branches, similar to the bonfires of Dark Souls, methodical combat with emphasis on parry and dodge, and a progression based on resource collection to improve weapons and attributes. Lies of P is a dark reimagining of Pinocchio, mixing fairy tales with the Victorian horror of Bloodborne. The proposal seems bizarre on paper, but in practice it is one of the most polished and well-constructed experiences in the genre. The city of Krat is dense, decadent, and full of secrets and traps. The combat is heavy with a very demanding parry system. The variety of weapons and the possibility of customizing the protagonist's mechanical arm allow you to create unique playstyles. Each boss is a work of design, with unpredictable attacks and visuals that alternate between the grotesque and the poetic. The narrative revolves around lies. Your choices impact the events and the ending, and the concept of lying to become human adds a rare philosophical weight. It is a game that challenges not only reflexes but also the player's morality. The art direction is impeccable, and the soundtrack reinforces the melancholic tone of the journey. Lies of P managed to do the impossible, to honor Bloodborne without just looking like a copy. It has its own soul, plenty of creativity, and just the right amount of challenge. For many, it is already one of the best Souls-likes in recent history. And for good reason. Well, that was the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and see you next time.